Hello and welcome back to the channel. Thank you for joining me in another of my wonderful interviews. Now, as you know, as you will probably be aware, my lovely audience, that of course we're being sold out by not only our government but governments across the world. Our sovereignty is being taken away from us by the people that we supposedly have voted for and are supposed to look after us, and going to be any second given away to the WHO, the World Health Organization, and so that they can decide at any point when there's a next pandemic and the response and all of that. And at this moment, the negotiations are going on in Geneva, and it's all going to happen. It's all going to be a bad thing, except there are rumbles now. I'm getting reports left, right, and centre that actually these negotiations are not quite as solid as we would like, or as rather as they would like, but that's not going to stop them. And a bunch of very determined people to make their voices known, which maybe you and maybe many of your friends, colleagues, and countrymen are joining up to take to the road to Geneva to get their voices heard, to say, actually, we don't want this, we do not consent, it's not what anybody has been asked for, and you may want to join them and get your voice heard. And I'm very thrilled to have Dan Astin-Gregory, who is, I suppose, the chief coordinator of the Road to Geneva, to join me now. Dan, lovely to have you on the show.
Great to have you. Yeah, great to see you, Richard, and thanks for having me here. This is the last interview we'll be doing before we take to the road, so we're
Oh, well,
really
I'm
excited to
absolutely
be here.
honoured. Thank you so much. Yeah, so you are on the road to Geneva to get the voice of the great British people and others from around the world, I guess, who are joining you, because I know you've got loads of speakers, you've got rallies, you're actually, you're doing something. You're not just like me sitting in a studio pontificating, talking about it. You're actually doing something, which is very commendable. So tell us then, what is the project and where we are with it? Because we've
Yeah.
only got something like 4 days to go.
Well, yeah. So the World Health Assembly began yesterday on the 27th, and will conclude on Saturday, the 1st of June, when we have our rally. So there's multiple parts to this project, Richard. So, and firstly, raising awareness is the first step to change, actually. So content creation, media, we've been crying out for people to raise awareness to these issues. That's fundamental. But you're absolutely right. Now we must change, take action and move towards a different future. And ultimately, that's what we're going to Geneva to do. The rally is called the We Are the Change Rally. It's there not only to say no to the WHO, but it's also to say yes to our freedoms and yes to our future. So we're starting a convoy. There's a pan-European convoy. In fact, I say it's pan-European. It's become international. We've literally got people flying in from across the world to join the convoy. In fact, two of the Canadian convoy veterans are in London now. They're going to be joining us on Thursday morning. They've actually brought one of the flags that was flown from. I'll see if I can show you a picture before we wrap up. Actually, the flags that was flown on the trucks, and we all remember the trucker convoys. Now, we live in Great Britain. It's not quite the same as as Canada. We don't have the same truck culture. There's the picture, by the way. Hopefully, you can see that one.
Oh, wow, look at that. Yeah, brilliant.
The flag, the Canadian flag, which was actually flown on one of the leading trucks. But we have a people's convoy. So we're leaving on Thursday morning from Folkestone, and we're taking the road to Geneva, We've got 2 days of travel, and nations from all across Europe are joining us, really to show that visual impact that this is an international issue. And we know what impact these convoys can have in terms of raising awareness of the problem. And then when we arrive into Geneva, we actually have a press conference on Friday morning. 10 international lawyers are coming together to dissect what's happened during the World Health Assembly, so they can give us, the real legalities, the real nuts and bolts of what's happened during this week and what it means for the prognosis for the future and what needs to be done. And then the finale really is our major rally, a rally taking place in the heart of Geneva. And it really is in the heart of Geneva. It's outside the United Nations
Wow.
office. We've got it. It's a permitted rally somehow. And they're fully aware, by the way. They're fully aware that we're coming, because the World Health Organization released footage of their discussions yesterday, and in the last 5 minutes they talked about our rally, and of course they smeared us anti-vaxxers, misinformation, all this usual stuff. But they know we're coming, and it seems that they not only know we're coming, they're actually a little bit afraid of the impact that we're having. So we've got about 50 different speakers from all across the world, speaking really from the place of how do we move forward. So it's not all about what went wrong during COVID. We've heard a lot about that over the last few years.
Yes.
This is now about a statement of intent, a statement that declares our freedom, declares our independence, and declares our right to determine our own future, free from the influence or agendas of unelected global bureaucrats. Because let's face it, the WHO, the treaty, and the amendments to the international health regulations are one thing. In September, we're also going to be going to New York to do a similar activity because the UN has their Summit of the Future where they are signing the Pact for the Future. And I don't remember Richard being consulted on that Pact for the Future and how our future is going to be laid out.
No, certainly not. No one's came knocking on my door and said, "Oh, how about your future?"
Yeah.
No.
So all of these things are going on, and this for us is now, this is the long road to freedom. So the road to Geneva is really that first step. Millions of us have taken to the streets over the last 4 years to challenge the impositions on our freedoms and our rights, and that trajectory post COVID hasn't really stopped. In fact, it's deepening, and this is a really urgent matter now. You mentioned about sovereignty. There's lots of discussion about this because that's something that the WHO have kind of thrown back to us and saying, "Hey, we're not taking your sovereignty," but you really need to understand that we didn't need any additional documents during COVID for that lockstep approach for lockdowns and restrictions and mandates. Soft power is actually more powerful than hard power, and hard power is, legislation. Soft power is the influence and coercion that they have through different mechanisms, through propaganda, through behavioral science, and all these different things. So whilst in technical terms, the documents may not strip our sovereignty, although it does make certain impositions around biosurveillance and all these other things, it's really the influence and the perceived authority that gives the WHO, which the governments are essentially aligning with. It's the spirit of the documents, which is the greater problem, because it really encapsulates and risks. This is my greatest fear, is it risks not only normalizing what happened during COVID, but legitimizing it and legalizing it. Because these international health regulations, the amendments, yes, they've been watered down, but the underlying document itself that already exists and has existed since 2005 is what enables things like these crazy impositions to happen, like the lockdowns and the quarantines and the travel bans and all these different things. So we fundamentally need to say no, which is what we're going there to do. But we also need to say, this is where we're going to go from here. We need alternatives. We need solutions. And it's really important now that we start to really double down on that. It's really a turning point now where we start to look forward to the future.
Yes, and I mean, this is the thing. The solutions thing is the thing that I think we need to be talking about a lot more, because the vaccine program, that's happened, and we're all reeling, and we're seeing that, and perhaps the government's now realizing they can't hide the bodies and the push that they made, the propaganda, the fear. We're all analysing what went on, and the solutions for alternative ways to deal with any type of pandemic, if there is another one, certainly isn't a one world solution. I mean, it's got to be more local, isn't it? It's got to be down to each individual country to work out their own way of doing it rather than being dictated to.
Well, absolutely. But I also think we need to fundamentally challenge the principle that pandemics are on the rise. There's lots of scrutiny around the true nature of what actually happened during COVID and how serious or deadly or pervasive it really was. We can't ignore what's just happened and say, well, this is something that's going to happen every year now. They will try and make us believe it has. But again, we know how much statistical tomfoolery. I never thought I'd say that.
Well, quite.
There was a lot of really subjective subject matter that really skewed the view of what was really happening. And we have all the receipts of all the lies, all the genuine misinformation and disinformation that our governments and our media fed us over that time. So the WHO and their agencies are sweeping all of that under the table, and they're trying to lead us down this path that we've got this culture of pandemics, that we're going to face these imminent threats and these constant atrocities. And they're doing a really good job of getting people afraid again, because you'll notice it's the bird flu, and it's the disease X, and it's this other thing, and it's this is the problem when you start to and again.
They are saying all of that, but monkeypox never sort of stuck, did it? And avian fever. I remember walking in the countryside last year about this time when it was sort of like, oh yeah, it's coming, and then nothing really happened. And I certainly know from running the channel that a lot of people, certainly the viewers, of course I'm talking to a lot of people who know what's going on, so it's very difficult to get a broad idea of the real general public, but we're definitely saying, hang on a second, this does look a little bit suspicious. It's more of the same old claptrap that we've been fed before. And it does seem more people are beginning to be aware of that, especially with the problems with the vaccine. So I think they may have a problem convincing people that these viruses are traveling around at the speed of science, left, right, and centre, killing people or maiming people. Because the biggest problem we've seen of people dying does seem to be associated with something that was injected to pretty much the whole world population.
Yeah, I mean, every day there's a new chart that shows this escalation of whether it's health conditions or mortality, whether you're talking about fertility issues or heart issues or mortality. They all point to the same date. And the rebuttal is always, causation, correlation doesn't equal causation. It's like, but how many charts do you need to see? Statistically, it does get to a point where correlation, in fact, does imply causation. So it's and
even if sorry to jump, but even if you say, even if it was but not so much that I've lost my thread there a bit, but what I'm trying to get to is it just demonstrates that even if it was advice from the WHO that we should have this thing and it was a mistake and it all went wrong and we're really sorry and we should have learnt the lessons, it really goes to prove that having one body of people coming up with one idea of how you deal with it is clearly wrong. It's stupid, because you need lots of bodies of people in different parts of the world to come up, as I said before, with a local solution, not one saying, oh, it's just one medication and if everybody has it. And it's like, well, it doesn't seem to have done much good, to be honest with you.
Absolutely, and that's their slogan, all for health and one, something like that. Sounds like the Three Musketeers.
I was just going to say,
it's one health, all for health, and one for health. One health for all and all for health. It's something like that.
Yeah.
That's their theme for the event this week. But that's the reflection of this centralized policy, and you're absolutely right. And they deny that they are kind of taking this ministry of truth approach, but they really are. They're trying to position themselves as the central authority and guiding body on these things, which has consequences. And it really does. History shows us that. So you're absolutely right. We need a localized, decentralized approach to public health. And this idea of pandemic preparedness, no one is actually talking about how do we become more resilient to any form of illness? How do we actually take better care of our health naturally? How do we, it's all about drugs. And even in the international health regulation amendments, they've defined health products as pharmaceuticals, vaccines, and all these different things. When I think of health products, I think of fruit and vegetables. I think of, herbal supplements and, all of these things. I don't think of pharmaceuticals. And no. This is the problem. This is paving the way for a pharmaceutical industrial complex. In fact, it's a pandemic industrial complex, because imagine this. Imagine you go for a walk in the woods and you're not looking for squirrels, but you see one squirrel and you think, oh, I wonder how many squirrels are in this park. And you start looking and all of a sudden you see 5, 10, 20, 30, 40. There's a lot of squirrels around in this park. I'd never noticed them before. The same is true of these supposed pathogens, because now they're going to go out looking for them. And if you tell them that one of those squirrels is a deadly poisonous squirrel, we see how people respond to fear. All of a sudden, every squirrel appears to be a poisonous squirrel. And this is how, the surveillance culture is going to create the problem, as we're seeing with these alarmist responses to every little pathogen. And this is a precondition of this preparedness, is we're going to go out there and look for every possible pathogen, all of which probably have existed for a long, long time.
Yes.
And of course, no issue. But all of a sudden, this heightened fear, this heightened scrutiny, and all of a sudden, every squirrel is dangerous. Every pathogen is dangerous. And of course, we have a solution for all of those within our health product range, which we're developing in less than 100 days. And our partners over here are helping us to sweepingly give emergency authorization. We know the drill. We know the pattern, which is why all of these things are really fundamentally a threat to our public health and our freedoms and our rights, which is why, the road to Geneva is our way to go and take a stand and say enough is enough. We're drawing the line. We have to find a better way forward.
So let's have a look at your website, because your website is extremely practical as well as just saying what stuff is going on. Let me just go and find that for a second. It's down here on on the screen here. And well done, you guys, for putting it together. Here we go. Say no to the WHO, the road to Geneva, the People's Convoy. And as you can see, 30th of May to the 1st of June. Now, you said to me before we started recording that people say to you, hang on a minute, you're going too late, aren't you? And you gave me an answer to that.
Well, yeah. So the fundamental point of this entire project is to go there. People say we must not comply. And I agree with that. So what better way is there to go and actually, in defiance, say that and this poster that you're seeing there really kind of underpins it. It says we will no longer abide by the tyrannical rule of unelected global officials and their vision of the future. This is about going to say we are taking a different path. We are reclaiming our autonomy. We're reclaiming our freedom. We're reclaiming our sense of humanity, and we are declaring or proclaiming our independence from these international bodies. So it's in one hand, it's resistance. It's a defensive strategy to say no, but actually it's also an offense. It's a forward-focused solution to say we are going to move forward irrespective, and we're going to continue to go from strength to strength. As I mentioned, the World Health Organization recognized we are coming on the 1st of June. They talked about it in their recent press conference. So they know we're coming, and they know that we are growing in strength and in caliber. So on this website, if you want to come and join us on the convoy, you can see it all there, Richard. We've got a day-by-day schedule. The convoy is departing on Thursday this week. So I appreciate this is late for you to make a decision. But we spoke to our colleagues in Canada, as I mentioned, and they said even to the last few days, 20 to 25% additional trucks joined the rally right up to the last minute. So it's not too late for you to join us. We're meeting at Folkestone Service Station on Thursday morning at 10 a.m. And of course, we'll be traveling across the channel on either the ferry or the tunnel. We've posted all the details on here on the website. If you go to the convoy section, you'll see all the travel information. You can see all of the routes that we've planned. If you go further down there, Richard, you can see the lengths have gone in for all the different routes, the waypoints, where to stay. We've made it super simple for everyone to join us. And we've done this all over Europe. So no matter where you're tuning in from, you can see there all the timings on the screen. We've got every detail taken care of. We've got a participant guide. So even if you're thinking, it's too late for me to go, what do I pack? We've got a packing guide. We've really wanted to make it as simple for people as possible so you can come and join us. But ultimately, it doesn't matter if you join the convoy. Be there is the simple message. Whether you fly, take the train, you cycle, you walk, it doesn't matter. It's really about being there, this unique moment in history to say no and to make sure our voices are heard. We've got people traveling in from all over the world, from all different backgrounds, to make a strong stand and to make a statement. And people will look back in history and be able to say, I was there when we drew the line and said enough is enough. Because this is just the beginning, Richard, as I mentioned. This is the road to Geneva on the long road to freedom. This is our opening ceremony for our own path ahead, because change really requires us to resist and rebuild. Resistance is our defensive strategy. It's saying no. It's the pushback against all these amendments and the treaty. But at some point, we need to start carving our own path, as you said, around solutions. And this is really what it's about. This is why the rally is called the We Are the Change Rally. We're making that proclamation of independence, and we're starting to look ahead and see how we can blaze our own trail.
And as you've put this together, and I'm, this is obviously taken a lot of planning. Have you found that people are more and more getting on board, and understanding the issues at heart?
So the general public awareness is rising for sure. And this event, by the way, has been put together with multiple partners across Europe and the world. There's many organizations and individuals involved. We've had, shout out to all of our volunteers who have worked tirelessly night and day to put this together. It's been an enormous undertaking. But we believe it's of critical importance at this time in history. And of course, within our own movement, Richard, the closer we get to a deadline, the heat rises.
Yes.
And people start to become concerned. But we can't become complacent right now, because in the last 3 days, it was announced that, the pandemic treaty agreements had broken down. But they are very bullish that they are going to find a way to agreement within the course of this week. So by the end of this week,
I can't imagine they're going to give up, just like that. And go, a few people don't want to sign, so we'll break it up. As you said before, the WHO is still there.
Yes, the WHO will still be there. The pharmaceutical companies who are all over this will still be there. So there is still work to be done. So it's hugely important, and the more of us that make our voices heard, the more powerful we can become in creating a counter movement to what's happening there. Because, we've got a fork in the road here. We're either going to go down this all centralized health, which is based around drugs and pharmaceuticals, or we can reclaim our path to natural health. We can actually reclaim our path to well-being and our freedoms and our rights. And it's a choice that we must make, and we must show that we are the many and they are the few. It's very simple. We are the 8 billion. We can't have this small number of global officials to determine our future. It's important that we reclaim that democratic power, and we cannot rest on our laurels. We cannot be apathetic. We have to step up now and step forward. So this is my rally call to you. It's Tuesday now when we're recording this. We're departing on Thursday morning. It's not too late for you to join us.
Yes, and of course I do. Luckily, I have a few viewers across the world, so they can just join in as you get going, presumably.
Yes. So again, we're going to be live streaming all of this. The team at the Highwire are also live streaming this. The World Council for Health are live streaming this with us. Free Humanity, my organization, are live streaming this. So you can watch it from home. But there's nothing better than being there. So if you're tuning in from across Europe, all the maps are there for you. We've got different Telegram channels for each of the different countries. So people are swapping lift share information, accommodation, because look, we know that Geneva is an expensive place. Travel is expensive at the moment. So part of the reason we're doing the convoy is to make it more affordable for people, because you can share in a vehicle together, you can share accommodation together. And by the way, the arrival site, we've got this beautiful arrival site in Miju, which is on the French side of the border. It's in the Haute-Jura Mountains. It's absolutely stunning. It's stunning, and it overlooks the heart of Geneva, so we can actually see where we're going to go for the rally the next day. But we've got a whole arrival site there for all of Europe to come and descend on. So we've got an arrival celebration, a freedom celebration on Friday night. There's going to be a communal meal for people who are arriving and have traveled all across the continent to be there. So there's going to be real camaraderie. This is really an amazing opportunity to connect with freedom lovers or freedom advocates from all across the continent and indeed the world. This is going to be an unforgettable experience that you will never regret going to. We've got 50 different speakers on the rally on Saturday afternoon, starting from 1:30 p.m. We've got musicians. We've got a march going through the heart of Geneva. I mean, this is just going to be something else. So it's a really exciting opportunity to get involved and to come and make your voice heard and represent your country and to represent your vision of the future, so that we can make that bold statement together.
Yeah. Now, in this country, we have an election coming up. And it does make me wonder whether there is any influence that we can have on any of the candidates, hopefully independent candidates who are voted in, because the two main parties are basically two parties from the same...
Yeah, the Uni-Party.
The Uni-Party, aren't they?
Yes,
and so even though that's a little bit down the line, I mean, one thing that would be lovely to see is for a potential government or a series of independents making up a government, however that would look, to be able to say, actually, we don't want anything else now to do with the WHO. We've seen how they have affected us and how they've dominated, and they've wanted to, even if they haven't yet, but they intend to. Do you think there's any chance of utilising the election to push further back against the WHO and their intentions?
Yeah, so I make, yes and no. I've become, I mean, I've never been particularly a strong believer in the electoral process or the political process, the dual party process, even since I was a child. I remember I was asking my dad, what's going on the screen? It was just two old men jeering across these green leather benches. And I thought, what is this? It's politics, he said. This is how our country is run. And as like a 6 or 7 year old, I thought, what? This is how our country is run? And I went there recently to see Andrew Bridgen at the excess deaths debate, and it's still the same. Grey-haired men. Andrew's not grey-haired, but they're talking, he's still sort of jeering at each other across these green benches. Nothing has changed. But to be more hopeful, yes, and it's amazing, isn't it? Just amazing that it's the 4th of July. Literally Independence Day. We're independent.
I mean, they must have known that. They must have known that when they thought. Yeah, but are they thinking? Yeah, we're going to be independent from the public by being associated with the WEF and the WHO. They may have a different version of independence. That's the trouble.
They may well do. But your point, and it is an important one. And actually, the WHO. This is their greatest fear at the present, because again, if you look at that, the latest broadcast, and we can give you the links, it will show that they are talking about the rebel politicians that are pushing back against these agreements and making it hard for them to come to an agreement. So quite clearly having outspoken, and it shouldn't even be called outspoken, Richard. We shouldn't be in this environment where you have to be a rebel to be principled and to speak the truth.
Yes.
So it's really important, actually. And again, this is where the public have to now rise up as well, because if you look at the voting records, we have dwindled. And if you look at political party membership, it's like less than 1% in the UK. And, granted, most of you are thinking, I don't want to join a political party. Well, neither do I. But actually, if we're going to leave it to the global elites and the corporations, they are fully paid up members. Let's face it. So if we are not members and we are not making our voice heard, whether it's signing up to support independence or even the major parties, I mean, as a strategy, we should be sending information all the time to all of the politicians, all of the political parties to make to make our voice clear, because it's so distorted by the media circus that we don't have that representation. So in order to do that, we do need to continue to channel information to our elected and non-elected representatives to make sure our voices are heard. So this election does represent a unique opportunity to break down that uniparty system. I call it like the home and away kit. The blue kit is for the home kit, and the red kit is the away kit. It's the same team. To break that down, is we have to go for independence and to support the independents. And even if they don't fundamentally represent our full spectrum of views, at the very least, breaking down the power structure of two dominant parties is vital in order to create transformation. So this 4th of July, I'm going to take a few days off when I get back from Geneva. We've been working literally night and day, but then for the remaining 3 or 4 weeks, I'm going to go all in on supporting the independents, not only locally, but helping to raise a campaign across the UK to raise awareness of this important piece, because it is important that we start to now again take personal responsibility for our democratic process. And if we abstain from doing that, I understand the appeal of spoiling the ballot paper. That is one act of protest. But right now, if there's an independent in your town, your area, that can support your views and actually help get your voice heard, then this is a great opportunity. And I think the work starts now. We really must be talking to those independent candidates, irrespective of their current position. It's down to us to educate, and each one of us can do that. Each one of us has the power to do that. So I think it's a great opportunity.
Your the road to Geneva and what you're doing is bringing people aware, perhaps, who weren't that interested in politics, because they're interested in their health, their parents' health, their children's health, the next generation's health, and so on, and decisions made by unelected bureaucrats who have no responsibility at the end of the day, or no liability, it would seem, for what happens, and can just dictate the terms. That must be bringing in a lot more people who are thinking, hang on a second, this isn't right. In the past, politics was boring, but now it's really affecting me, my family, and my friends, and my communities. So what you're doing there, and the convoy, and getting people from all around the world, and particularly young people who have seen, as you so accurately described, the Punch and Judy of politics, which just seems very bizarre to people. So, well, how does anything ever get organised when you see PMQs? It must be bringing people to the attention, politics to the attention. Hang on a minute, we've got to change this, because the old system is just an anachronism now.
Yeah, and this is the important thing. When people say, what's the point in protesting? Protesting does nothing. I've got two responses to that. Firstly, if you went to the first rallies in the United Kingdom in 2020, which had like 20 people on there, and you went to the ones that had 100,000 or a million, you telling me that they didn't make a difference? You went from like 20 people knowing what's going on to millions. They're a powerful tool for raising awareness, really powerful tool. But I do agree that they rarely change policy themselves. But here's the important point based on what you've just said, Richard. History shows that when someone becomes active through protest, they typically become politically active for a lifetime. And that is true. Now, think about that for yourself. If you attended to a rally, are you paying more or less attention to the political realm since you protested? I would bet that you are paying more attention, even if your attention is to say politics is broken, we should scrap it, or we should go for an anarchic approach, come back to self-organization and local level. That is still politics. So it's the protests have a really important role in helping more people become quote unquote awake to these issues, and therefore looking for ways to create change. So again, this rally, the road to Geneva, it's waking up people to a whole spectrum of ideas and issues, and then they're bringing it back to our own country, because ultimately that's where change is going to happen. Because no matter what the WHO do or the UN, we still have at this present moment the ability to influence politics at the local level. So it's our hope. And actually, what's really fascinating, Richard, some of the people that were supposed to be speaking in Geneva cannot speak because they are actively, having been activists for the last 4 years, they are now entering in the world of politics. In fact, my co-host in Geneva, Maria Huber-Marg, she's running for MEP in Austria. Despite her, campaigning door to door, day to day, she's working flat out to help pull this rally together. But there are many people around Europe that have now gone into politics to try and create change from within. Now, we could debate that in its effectiveness. But again, think about it. You've got someone who stood up throughout COVID for what is right, and now they are seeking to get into the political system. You think about the impact that's going to have over the long term. Brick by brick, every institution that has been corrupted can become diluted by our presence. So that's why all of these mechanisms are so important. And I take such hope from seeing that. I personally would like to see an absolute overhaul of the way that we organize ourselves as a nation, as a locality. But in the interim, seeing more freedom-minded people that have integrity, principles, and values moving into the political system is at least going to start diluting the power structure. And that is something to be hopeful about.
And I think you've just touched on something there, which I think is really important, because in the past, protests have been violent or been certainly painted as violent because mainstream media had the only media that you could see. But with the alternative media, we're seeing the true picture of protests or argument being put forward, or people, gathering peacefully and, more to the point, intelligently engaged in conversations and podcasts. So it's showing a whole different way from 20, 30 years ago, when you would see, say, like the miners' strike and things like that, which was very much the BBC and the others were able to sort of slant it one way and treat people as if they were just complete idiots. Now that's not the case. We're seeing things being argued intelligently, from a common sense point of view, a critical thinking point of view, which makes those people who hadn't been interested in politics, or had always had a dim view of it and just thought, no, I'm never going to bother with any of it, or we've always traditionally voted one particular way, to start seeing that actually those people who want to make a difference are not the idiots that they have been painted. So what an amazing time for this sort of stuff. Before, of course, the digital IDs sort of stop people getting access to freedom and information on the internet. Again, this is why what you're doing and the way that you're doing it in such an intelligent and creative and honourable way, without inciting violence, again, must bring more and more people in to say, this is how we want to be governed, or looked after by a new government.
Well, absolutely. If you look at what's happened in the last few years, the authoritarian, technocratic, tyrannical approach, that is a form of violence.
Yeah.
If we want to live in an environment that is not violent, and we're living in an increasing level of global conflict, if we want to live in a world that is peaceful, free, and prosperous, then we have to be that change. Again, it's why we call this "We Are the Change." And picture this: we're going into Geneva, the center of Geneva, where we've got the United Nations, the WHO. Just down the road, we've got Davos. We're going to go in there and bring a completely different energy. Imagine the type of energy that's currently there with all the kind of groups that are involved in determining all these policies. We're going to go in there, bring this really high vibe, loving, peaceful energy. We're going to go and say our piece. We're going to get in and get out, and then we're going to get back to work on Monday.
Yes.
It's important that we do bring that energy, into the world we want to create. This is going to be a very peaceful protest. The rally itself, the convoy, we're really excited again to bring that loving, joyful experience going on the road there. It's a place for camaraderie. And because it's, we're not going there as angry activists. We can all be angry and frustrated, of course, but we're actually going there with optimism and hope for the future. And actually, in order to do that, we've got to be willing to leave our frustration at the door and actually go there with something positive and creative in order to start to change things.
And the optics of people going in with humanity and empathy, and the way that you're going to be, and of which many of us are in the freedom and truth movement actually have, as opposed to the optics that we see of them as very professional, completely devoid of any humanity. It's all sort of business and money, and we're going to achieve this and end goals. And you think, where's the life? Where's the humanity in everything you're doing? We're all on this planet to live and thrive, and all we see is this very angular, steel, glass, dehumanized type of dead entities, really, that doesn't represent us or what we want. And there they are talking about, potential pandemics, which will if we don't take their stuff, their medicines, their white pills, we'll be in trouble. And yet what you bring is that joy, that life, that party, the singing, the dancing, the sort of things that actually people want to see, rather than suited and booted, sort of neutral, lifeless entities chatting around, dictating what we're going to get.
Absolutely.
So more power to you.
Thanks. And that's exactly what we call the organization Free Humanity, our organization. It's proclaiming our freedom, but also reclaiming our humanity, because you're absolutely right. It's become soulless. It's vague. It's beige. It's vanilla. It's lifeless. It's the life has been sucked out of humanity over the last few years, quite literally. And now it's important that we start to bring our energy back into this, and actually our shared sense of humanity. And our shared sense of humanity doesn't diminish our own individual autonomy or our own individual sovereignty or our own cultures. It enables us to actually, and we'll bring people together. And it's going to be amazing meeting with people from Asia, Africa, other parts of Europe, America, Canada, New Zealand, all these freedom fighters from across the world, hearing all the different stories and all the things that we've had to face. And it's just incredible what happens when you create that environment, and the ideas that come together, and how we can actually inspire change. So I think this is a unique period in history. There's a long road ahead, as I mentioned, but it's really inspiring to see what's coming together. And your point, Richard, we just got a hit piece from one of the I think it's called Health Policy News or something like that, which is actually funded by the Wellcome Trust, which is a pharmaceutical industry, and it's the unofficial mouthpiece of the WHO. In fact, one of the former WHO communications officers is actually one of the chief editors there. So clearly aligned with the interests of the WHO. But they use the same old tactics. It's just weak yellow journalism, far right anti-vax conspiracy theorists, and it's just. When you see those words now, people just don't take it seriously. But the reality is here for me, Richard, and this is amazing. Over the last 4 years, as much as I've always been politically homeless, I've not played, I've not aligned with any of the color teams ever during my lifetime. And, it probably stems back to my childhood. But I do respect that some people have. Yeah. And what's been beautiful over the last few years is that this is literally the most politically diverse group I've ever been part of. You've got people from the left, the right, the center, they're politically homeless. I think most of us are probably now politically homeless. That's one of the things that we have in common, because we've lost faith in the overall mechanism. But it really is that really diverse group of people in the truest sense, not in the,
yes. Not in the diverse way that they were diverse of everything but thought and common sense.
Yes, exactly.
As we see.
And they smear this as a right-wing issue. This is a humanitarian issue. This is an issue of human importance, irrespective of your political beliefs, your religion. It doesn't matter. This is a human issue. This is about our public health. This is about our well-being. This is about our future. This is about our rights. And that does not require any partisan belief. This is a non-partisan humanitarian issue. So don't fall for the smearing, and again, on the stage, there's people from every political leaning. It's too easy to pick the one character who wears the MAGA hat and go, oh, that's the whole thing.
But it's a no-brainer really for most people, surely, because I can't think. It's like so many things that we've seen pushed down the tube for us in politics, that everything seems to be, well, who actually asked for this? Who wants a one world government? Who wants just one solution? Instead of using pharmaceuticals that are out of whatever it's called, patents, that's free and cheap to produce, like ivermectin and all the other stuff that we could have used. No, we've all got to wait for one thing at the speed of science that we've developed that actually has not been tested. It's not been tested properly on. It's still an experimental drug, and pregnant women, we don't know what's going to happen to babies that are born 10 years down the line or even 10 months down the line, yet you're forced to have. No one's asked for any of this. So it does seem like a no-brainer that across all the party political spectrum, the parties, that this is about living and about life. And I can't think of anybody who wants one set of unelected bureaucrats to run our world. The fact that they even get away with it, that we take them seriously, or that the elected people that we put into power, we don't really put them in, they just get there, that anyone takes any of this seriously is really always surprises me. I go, oh, well, that's what, the WHO. Well, why? And I think, again, coming back to the road to Geneva, this is why we're sort of questioning who gave them the authority to make these decisions.
Well, this is where the hard reality has to come in, Richard, because in some ways we did, because we became so far disconnected from the decision-making process. When I said that, political membership is less than 1% of the population, that means 99% of the world, of the population isn't communicating politically. So when you leave that gap, we are the 99%, yet we are not taking 99% of the responsibility. So that's where we've left a gap.
Although that is programmed into us.
Well, it is, and that's
they knew that.
It's systemic, it's cultural, it's conditioned. It's part of and the power structure has very strong mechanisms as a self-defense. So I'm not putting the blame on ourselves, but I'm also looking in the mirror to say if we want things to change, and we can no longer sit back and be to leave the someone else's hands on the wheel.
Yes.
We've got to
recognizing that as the problem. We
Yes.
suddenly realize, we may have let them take the responsibility from us, but now the tables are turning.
Yes, we're defending our right to have influence and control over our future. And this is ultimately about determining our right to our own futures. And this is about becoming autonomous. But the hard reality is, Rich, you're right. The game is set up to make our lives complicated, stressful, unhealthy, atomized. Yeah, all of the game is rigged in that favor. So we have to, detach from that and be willing to come back to our own sense of autonomy and say, you know what, I'm not going to be victim of this polarization, this tribalization, this atomization. I'm not going to get pulled from pillar to post. I'm not going to get addicted to my phone so I can't be present anymore. I'm not going to, become dependent on sugar and all these different things that can detach us from our own kind of consciousness. It's actually taking full power, personal power back for yourself first.
But look at us. We are doing something about it.
Yes.
The catalyst has been put into the mix now, and people every day are becoming aware of the great harm that's happened to them. And what you're doing here is crystallizing a whole load of people to get on board and realize, actually, we can make a difference, and we can be responsible, and we can take back that power, and we can make the decisions and tell them, and they must be terrified.
Well, yeah, I mean, their comments from the latest video would suggest that they are. But we're not coming here with aggression. We're coming here with a vision of our own for the future. But your point is absolutely right. People are now reclaiming their personal power. They're reclaiming their right to determine their own future. They're reclaiming their right to influence the course of events around them because they've been led to believe that they can't influence change. It's factually incorrect. We can influence the future. We can influence our local communities. And in fact, one of my passion projects this year, I've been working with a local community here in Bournemouth. Nothing to do with the freedom movement. It's a true, genuine community project to enhance the quality of our local neighborhood, because change starts at home. It starts in our neighborhood. And if we start to make the world better in our own doorstep, then, well, you know what, that creates a ripple effect that creates a wave and becomes something that we can actually create a ripple effect around the world. It does start on our own doorstep. In fact, it starts before we even set out the door, quite frankly, Richard, because if you wake up in the morning and you're, sedating yourself with too much television or, sugary drinks, that's where, with no judgment, by the way, because again, I know these things.
No, well, this is it. We've all had heavy programming, haven't we?
Yes, exactly. But it's about now tuning out of that programming. And Jason Christoph, who's speaking in Geneva, talks about this a lot. He talks about all the things that are out there to sedate us and create mind control. It's breaking free from those things so that we become even more powerful in our own right. And that, personal power is not to have power over others. It's to have power over oneself. It's to have power over one's own decision-making, our own capacity to make change. It's those, and it's interesting, there are those who want to be free to control their own future, our own lives, that's us. And there are those that want to control those who are free. And, the powerful, the elite right now, they want to keep us subdued, so that we don't actually ever step into our own power to shape our own destiny. But right now, people are rising up in numbers, and the road to Geneva is just one part of that. So it's my hope that, people having tuned in today will think, oh, can we make it? Yeah, we can do this. It's that we can. It's that we can spirit. It's that I can do this. We can make this happen. It's overcoming obstacles, because that's ultimately what makes us stronger, and will help shape the future. But I do appreciate not everyone will be able to make it. So the best thing people can do from home is, share the campaign, because we do know that people are every single day joining the convoy, signing up to be there with us. So do what it takes. Do your part. Share this campaign. Be there if you can. There's enormous cost gone into this. So if you follow our channels, you can find out how to contribute. The best way to send us.
So if people want to come down to Folkestone, did you say it was Folkestone?
Yes.
What's the logistics in terms of parking? And there's always
there's all kinds of logistics.
Bloody parking. It's like a whole convergence of people.
Yeah. So getting into practicality. So the best place to look is roadtogeneva.com/convoy. We're meeting at Folkestone, because some people are going to take the ferry, some people are going to take the tunnel. So we wanted to meet there first to have our horn honking moment, flying the flags, get some footage, connect with each other, and then we're going to go our separate ways across the tunnel and the ferry, and then we're reconvening on the other side, just outside of Calais, and then we have a route to Rome, where there's an overnight stop, and then next morning we'll get up and we'll head to Dijon. We'll take lunch in Dijon, and then we're going to arrive in Mijou. Mijou is where the dedicated convoy arrival site is. We've got a dedicated space where we have an event space. There's a communal dinner that evening. There's a communal breakfast the next morning. There's loads of accommodation in Mijou. It's more affordable than Geneva itself. There's like chalet. It's a winter ski village. So in the summer it's derelict pretty much. So you've got all these wonderful like ski style chalets, gîtes as they're known, which are kind of like bunk houses, hotels. There's a whole range of things there, all of which are on the website. So if you go to roadtogeneva.com/arrival, we've mapped it all out for you. So it's all there. So if you're thinking, I haven't got time to figure this all out, we've done all the figuring out. You just need to go to roadtogeneva.com, tell us you're coming, and all the information is there. And you can join the
you're going to meet new friends, aren't you? You're going to make friends and people that like-minded people, and the conversations you're going to have. I mean, it'd be amazing.
Oh, it's just going to be so much fun. Yeah, there's going to be so much laughter, and the stories that we'll share. Because we've got all these talks on Saturday on the stage, but on Friday night we've got this open mic night. There's going to be music and people jamming guitars and stuff. But we want to hear all the stories from the journeys, and the things that are happening. So anyone can pick up the mic on Friday and just share your experience on the convoy, share what's been going on in your town, your city over the last few years, and what you've done together. There's going to be a real shared sense of camaraderie. It's really bringing people together to draw the line and make history together. That's what it's all about.
Fantastic. Well, I will leave the link in the description. Please, if you can, get down there and just support and wave and honk your horn. Or if you want to take a few days off, why not go to Geneva and meet some amazing people and do some great work, and just show that we don't consent to their nonsense, and we're taking the power back. Dan, it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you. Thank you so much. And I'll try and follow as much as I can. I was just thinking as you were talking there, if we could do a live link up or something at some point would be great. We'll see what we can do. But in the meantime, more power to you. Thanks for letting me be the last of the interviews. You'll be revving up the trucks and heading off. So, ladies and gentlemen, check out the website, get on board. It's going to be fantastic. I look forward to seeing all the footage. And remember, it is being streamed live, you said, didn't you, Dan?
It is. Yes, it is. Yeah, and all the links will be on the website for that as well.
Yes, all will be on the website. Yeah. Brilliant. Wonderful. There we go. I'll be back with more monologues and more wonderful guests. But in the meantime, check out that website, ontheroadtogeneva.com, I think it is.
Roadtogeneva.com, yes.
Roadtogeneva.com, beg your pardon. Yes. It's in the description. Yes. Until next time, Dan, thank you so much. Good luck.
My pleasure. We'll see you there.
Enjoy yourself. I'm sure you will. Until next time, from Dan and I, thanks for watching. Bye-bye.